Good morning. How y'all doing? Okay. So if you're wondering what I'm doing right here is I'm recording this for Jonathan. He's gone today. And I think I missed another student earlier in the day. So I don't know if I've talked about this, like if you ever miss class or I have a few people missing, I'll record and I'll post this on my YouTube channel. What's my YouTube channel called?
I don't know, right?
You don't know what my YouTube channel is called? No. It's called Mr. Ebright. Okay? And I will post the subject that we're talking about and the date. It'll say U.S. history. It'll have the subject we're talking about, which today, communism and the first Red Scare, and the date of the lecture. Okay? So if you ever go to Mr. Ebright on YouTube, like and subscribe. I have 101 subscribers.
Give me a shout out. Can we get John a get well soon message?
John, get well soon. Hope surgery goes well.
No.
Okay. All right. The excitement's over. Okay. Everybody sign the thing where you can be photographed at the beginning of school. You know, sometimes really, yeah.
I don't remember signing.
Well, you sign. I think. I'm assuming everybody signed. Usually they send out an email. Like there's like one kid in the school that does not want to be photographed. Okay. So there you go. Okay. So guys, when we left off, we were talking about the Bolshevik Revolution, yes? Which means the majority, yes? The workers rising up, okay, bringing down the aristocracy, the wealthy, the powerful, the owners, and then raising everybody up. And this kind of goes back to the ideas, well, it does go back to the ideas of the Communist Manifesto, right? Which was written by Karl Marx. There was actually a co-author. I don't know if you knew that. Friedrich Engels. Okay? Or Friedrich, I believe is how they say it. Okay? Engels. So anyhow, guys, anybody know who Karl Marx was? Where's he from? Anybody know where Karl Marx was from? He was German, Marx. And he was Jewish. He was a German Jew. Like Einstein. Albert Einstein was a German Jew. Okay? Both became very famous. Now, one has an ism named after him, Marxism. Now, how many people in the world ever get an ism named after them? Not very many. Who? Luther, Calvin, McCarthy.
Guy named Social? No.
Yeah, we'll talk about socialism a little bit today as well. So, guys, Marx's theory, as a German Jew, guys, he was not actually living in Germany when he wrote the manifesto. He was living in London. Remember yesterday when I was talking about causes of World War I and all the societal problems of people moving off the farms into the cities, working in the factories, poor working conditions, poor living conditions, all the problems facing these people moving to the cities. Pollution, unsafe, unsanitary living and working conditions. This was what Marx saw in London. And he was like, there's got to be a better way. So he came up with this idea, okay, which became known as Marxism, which was translated over time to something called communism, okay? And that it's a utopian idea. It's really quite wonderful, guys. If you look at Marxism or communism, it's a wonderful idea in theory. The big problem is we're human beings, and we don't like to share. We have this innate sense of survival, and therefore we are selfish. Now, some of us are very selfless, but all of us are selfish. We're going to look out for our own good. Okay? That makes communism or Marxism very difficult to implement in society. Okay, so, I mean, I guess you could do something like a commune, like the sisters. The sisters live, the IHM sisters. You guys know where they live? Out near St. Mark's. And how do they live? How do they earn money? Do they share everything? General, okay, and a small thing, like you could get a bunch of hippies together and find some fertile soil in New Mexico or something that could grow their own food and just share it. It's quite wonderful. Can we hold hands and sing Kumbaya? Wouldn't that be nice? Everybody being equal, okay? Now that's a buzzword today, guys. You guys have all heard this, right? Now you've also heard the word equality. There's a difference between equality and equity. Laura, what do you think? I think there is. So I want you to look at it this way, okay? Everybody in this room has an equal opportunity to learn what I'm talking about today. Everybody in this room has an equal opportunity, especially because my notes are on Canvas, to study for the test, pay attention, and make an A on the test. You all have an equal opportunity to do that. Some of you retain information very easily and don't have to study very much because you remember a lot. Some of you don't. And you got to study a lot. But the opportunity is still there. That's equality of opportunity. Equity is a term that's more used as an outcome. So we all get an A, or we all get a B, or we all get a C. In the end, in the outcome, we have equity. Following? So when I talk about these political ideologies, but more in reality, they're economic systems. So communism, guys, is an economic system. Socialism is an economic system. Capitalism is an economic system. Our form of government, guys, that we use is a republic or representative democracy. Republic is short for representative democracy. The democracy part is you get to vote. You get to vote for people to represent you and make decisions for you. Does that make sense? That's a form of government. These are economic systems. So over here, I have this kind of fun little chart that talks about feudalism, socialism, communism, bureaucratic socialism, democracy, Russian communism, representative democracy, bureaucracy, fascism, and capitalism. Now, some of these guys I will say for government. Let's focus on communism, socialism, and capitalism today. So, all of these, and they're very simplistic, start with you have two cows. So under communism, you have two cows. You and your neighbors take care of them, and everyone shares the milk. It's wonderful, right? We share everything. There's no private property. You don't actually own the cows, because that's not allowed in communism. There's no private property. Okay? We're just going to share everything. Can I give you a good example of this happening in real life? Sure, Mr. Ebright, you can do that. Okay, thanks. So anyhow, there's a group of students that three boys that came through here called the Guerras. Guerra, Guerra, okay? Their grandfather was born in Cuba, and their grandmother. They lived in Cuba, his grandfather. Fidel Castro took over Cuba in 1958, instituted communism there. And his grandfather they were fairly well-to-do. They had a house, and in the backyard, they had a pool and nice place. You know, a couple of years after Castro took over, they heard this big commotion in the backyard of their house. And they looked out the window and they saw all these strangers swimming in their pool. And he went outside and he goes, "Excuse me, what are you doing? Why are you in my pool?" And they simply responded, well, this isn't your pool. This is our pool. It's everybody's pool. And we're swimming in it. No private property. So under that, guys, I guess the people could just move into the house as well, because you don't own it. Okay? Now, in Russia, guys, when Lenin took over, and then Stalin, you do away with the private property. This happened as well. You used to own a farm. Now, back in the olden days, guys, if you could grow enough food to feed your families, you're doing good. Your family's got food, right? If you had some left over to sell, that's even better. Because then you could sell that extra food and then use that money to buy other things you need, or save it and maybe buy another plot of land and grow even more food. And then you could hire people to work on that farm and help you farm it, creating wealth for those individuals. But when the communists took over Russia, guys, they said, you will no longer own this land, but you will work on it because we're telling you you're going to work on this land. These other people are going to help you work on your land. What was your land? We're going to tell you what to plant, when to plant it, when to harvest it. And then, once you harvest it, we're going to tell you how much food you get to keep, because we're going to share it with those around us. Most specifically with the military. Now, who knows better how to farm? A bureaucrat that works for the government in Moscow, or a farmer? You know what happened with these 5-year plans that the government planned out the economy? What happened in Russia? Famine. Millions of people starved to death. Millions of people starved to death. When Mao took over China in 1948, and the Great Leap Forward, they called it. Same thing. Government planning of the economy, no private property, massive starvation. How many guys want to own an electric car? Now, who's trying to convince us, the automakers, to build electric cars and giving you big tax discounts to buy electric cars? Who's trying to get you to buy them? This is not a complicated question. No. Well, yeah, but they're told that they need to make them by who, and who wants you to buy them. Joe Biden, the government, they want electric cars right now. Okay? Why do they want electric cars? This is better for the environment? That's what they tell us, right? I'm not just making this crap up, guys, am I? Hello, good morning, good afternoon. Talk to me. Well, if you guys aren't in a rush to go out and buy electric cars, what's going to happen? Guys, they're making more electric cars right now than they ever have. You know where they're sitting? At the lot, at the auto dealership. Nobody's buying. You want to take a cross-country trip in your electric car? Good luck. How long does it take to charge that thing? 40 minutes at a minimum, sometimes hours. You stop and get gas. How long does that take? You know, and then you may have a hard time finding that thing. Now, we could fix that by building a bunch of new electric charging places, right? Who's going to build them? The government? Listen, guys, people aren't buying because they don't want them. Who decides what kind of cars we buy? You and I do. The market does. We like these. Everybody got one? Everybody got one? We like these. Did the government say, hey, we should get somebody to make these smartphones that people will want to buy? No, Steve Jobs came up with this idea. You know who that is? The government didn't create this demand. The market creates the demand. The businesses create the products to satisfy the demand. Government planning of an economy does not work. And guys, if you're into this green energy stuff, well, be honest with yourself and think about it. This is proven fact. If you drive an electric vehicle, that electric vehicle has to be manufactured. The cobalt and the lithium that goes into that battery has to be mined from Mother Earth. Where are most of those mines for cobalt and lithium today? In Africa. And who owns those mines in Africa? The Chinese. And who is working in those mines in Africa? African children. Now, in order for, you guys know what carbon neutral means? Or carbon footprint. So the amount of fossil fuels or carbon it takes to make an electric car, get it to market, and a fossil fuel car, you have to drive an electric vehicle at least 60,000 miles in order for it to be carbon neutral with the fossil fuel automobile. 60,000 miles. Now, how long is that battery going to last in your vehicle? And when it's no longer working, are you supposed to throw batteries in the trash can? Into the landfill? No, why? Because it's toxic. These are big batteries. These aren't your little double A's, your little triple A's. These are big batteries. Where are you going to put them? How are you going to dispose of them? Most of the solar panels that are made in this world are made where? In China. So when our government pushes us to buy these electric vehicles and these solar panels, we're building up whose economy? The Chinese economy. And guys, they're really not that effective or that carbon neutral or even better. You got to be intellectually honest with this, guys. You got to look it up. And the more we invest on stuff that is not working, I think we're shooting ourselves in the foot. But that's just my opinion. Okay, back to this. Okay, so the Russians tried this by the 1980s, guys, because we know the Soviet Union is going to fall in 1989. Ronald Reagan recognized this. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but what Reagan recognized is that the Soviet Union was trying to keep pace with the United States militarily. So Reagan started a massive rebuilding of the U.S. military. New aircraft carriers, more nuclear weapons, more missiles, more submarines, all the things, more aircraft. The Russians trying to keep pace with us bankrupted that nation. Okay, we went into debt, not near the debt we're talking about now, but we went into debt some. But capitalism could sustain it. Communism couldn't, and it collapsed. So if you guys look at communist countries today, take the Chinese, for instance, or the Vietnamese, for instance. Guys, they do not use communism. They call themselves communists. They are not. They use the free market. The Chinese aren't stupid. They know what the Russians didn't work. It's easier to start a business in China than it is in California. And we're good at sending them all kinds of things to build for us. If you look at the growth of the Chinese economy over the last 25 years compared to the growth of our economy, They're growing at 6, 8, 10% growth annually. And we're mired at like 1.5%, 2%. If we get the 4% growth in a year, we're doing well. We, you and I, your parents and I really fueled the rise of China. We create the technology and they build it for us. Flat screen TVs. Everybody got one of those? I remember when they first came out. My dad died in 2003. He left me and my sisters a $100,000 life insurance policy. 2 sisters, 3 ways, $33,000 each, and a whole bunch of debt on the house he owned. Okay, but I took that $33,000 and I bought a used Ford truck and what was kind of a flat screen TV at the time. Cost me $3,500. It was 55-inch. Okay, $3,500. Go buy a 55-inch right now at Sam's. How much you get that for? On Black Friday, $200, $300, $350, right? Thank you, China. And we like it. We like it. Okay? Now, did you also know that the Chinese, not only using child labor in the mines of Africa, of the Congo, they're also enslaving the Uyghur people who are Muslims that live in China? Did you know that? And I just looked it up, guys, during my plan period. Which American companies use slave labor, forced labor in China? And what I found was most every automobile company uses parts made from slave labor. BMW, Ford, Nike. You guys shop at Kohl's? Kohl's might be beneath you. Might be a Dillard's person or Von Moore. Kohl's, a bunch of clothing manufacturers. Okay, slave labor. Yeah, it kind of pisses me off. Apple. Yeah, it makes me question, like, maybe I should stop doing business with some of these companies. But there's a long list of them. Look it up. Slave labor. You guys okay with that? I'm not really okay with that. We talk about how much we're against slavery, right? They're Muslims. Who cares? Yeah, that's what they said about the Jews, right? And in an earlier day, that's what they said about the Christians when the Christians were persecuted. There's those weird Christian people. You know what I mean? Maybe we should excuse it. It's kind of sad. Kind of sad. Okay, I'm getting off track. Okay. You have 2 cows. Sell one. Buy a bull. What happened? I have to go through this with you. Tell me what happens, Cash. Exactly. So, you have 2 cows. You sell one of the cows and you buy a bull. Stud. They mate, yes? And they make calves, yes? How many calves will 1 cow and a bull make? 1 at a time. How many can it make? At a time. Over a lifetime? I don't know. I'm asking. Anybody know cattle? So say you have 2 baby cows to 1 bull, okay? Now, I'm going to trade you my bull for your bull because I don't want daddy bull mating with the offspring. You know, the inbreeding thing. So we're going to swap bulls, and then those bulls are going to impregnate those ones, and pretty soon You got cattle. You're going to milk some of them, right? You're going to have milk. You can make cheese. You can make some butter out of that, okay? And you're going to use it for your family. But if you have any left over, you can sell that milk, that butter, that cheese. I like cheese. I'll buy some cheese from you. Okay? Now, you take the profits from that extra. Okay? And after a while, you're tired of milking those damn cows at 5 o'clock in the morning, so you hire somebody to milk the cows for you. Now, that guy's not making a lot of money, but he's making a little bit of money, and he's going to save every penny he can. Pretty soon, that guy that's milking your cows goes out and buys some chickens. Now, he got some chickens, and he's going to have eggs. He's going to have eggs to eat himself. Make eggs a lot of different ways. Right? Use it to cook with and all kinds of stuff with your eggs. And then he's going to take the extra eggs, he's going to sell them. He's going to buy more chickens. Okay? Now, the guy's milking, now you're getting more cows, he's got a thing, and now you got extra milk, so you're going to hire a truck driver to drive your milk to market. Truck driver's going to save his money, be frugal with it, and after a while, he's going to save enough money to buy another truck. He's going to hire a truck driver to drive that truck, and before you know it, this guy's got a trucking empire. Now, some of these cattle you got, you're going to butcher. You cut them up because you want to eat steak. You want some red meat. You're going to eat that. And then you have some left over and you're going to sell it. And pretty soon you're going to hire a butcher. Now that butcher's going to save his money, save his money, save his money. And then he's going to open a storefront. He's going to hire people to work at his butcher. Guys, what I just described is capitalism. That guy started with 2 cows. And he has created wealth for many people. Communism, when you take from those that have to give to those that don't, to bring them up, does not create wealth, it redistributes wealth. Socialism, similarly, guys, take from the rich. You can do that through taxes, higher taxes, and then create new government programs to help the poor. It's redistribution of wealth. Now, that $33 trillion in debt that we have, guys, is because we spend more than we take in, so we can tax the rich more. Okay? But eventually, you're going to run out of their money. I mean, guys, you could take all of Bill Gates' money, all of Jeff Bezos' money, all of Elon Musk's money, and you couldn't run the government here, the U.S. government, for 30 days. With all their money. They are billionaires, not trillionaires. There's a big difference. So to drive home this point, I'm going to go one more example. First test in here. First test in here. Okay? I'll pick on a couple of people. Johnson, right here, Johnson. She is going to study that first test for 4 hours. You'll make an A. Okay? Huerta. You're going to study for 30 minutes. He's going to make a C. Now, this is the goal. Equity. So, listen, it's not fair that you have an A and another student has a C. So I apologize, but I'm going to take one of your grades, one of your letter grades, and I'm going to give it to him. So you're both going to have a B. Okay? It's only fair. Next test. Johnson. I studied for 4 hours, and I got a B. That kind of pisses me off. So you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to do good on this. I'm going to study, but I'm only going to study for 2 hours. Where? Studied for 30 minutes the first time? I'm going to study for 15. I'm just going to look it up. Okay? This time, Johnson, You make a B. He makes a D. Sorry. You're going to have a C. And so are you. We're going to have equity. What happens on the next test? Are you going to study? Are you going to study? What happens to the productivity of this classroom? There's no profit motive. See, Johnson, you pull an A in here, and an A in all your other classes, through 4 years of high school, and you have 4.0, and you apply to college, they may offer you a scholarship where you may not be able to afford it because you got like 30 kids in your family. You can't afford college, but because you've taken care of that opportunity and used it, you get a scholarship. So you get a new opportunity. Then what you do with that opportunity? There's a motive. Now, if you started as a freshman and you're like, I'm all honors, and then your senior year, I'm all AP everything. I'm not only going to take 7 classes, I'm going to take 8 classes because Mr. Ebright teaches a 0 hour. And I'm going to take 8 classes, and half of them are going to be AP. And I'm going to make a 4 or 5 on all those AP exams, and I'm going to get into Notre Dame. I'm going to get into Yale. And when I get a degree from Yale or Notre Dame, I'm guaranteed to get a job. And not only a good job, I'm going to get paid a lot of money. There's a profit motive. When there's no profit motive, there's no private property. What happens? It goes to hell rather quickly, guys. And you get famine. You get people starving to death. Society breaks down. Guys, capitalism has lifted more people out of poverty than any other economic system in history. Why do you think so many people are clamoring to get into this country? For opportunity. It's what you do with that opportunity. And if you hadn't done jack crap with your opportunity up to this point, and you got a 2.1 GPA in this institution, it's not too late. Trust me. I had a GPA pretty close to that in high school. I now have a master's degree. It wasn't too late. You know what I'm saying? It's never too late. And you don't even have to go to college. You need to work your ass off. That's all you got to do. Put your nose, put your mind to it. Go do it. Take it. Go get it. Live the American dream. What's the American dream? Well, it's different for everybody else. I'm going to tie this into the lecture here, okay? So, there's usually like one common thread that kind of follows the American dream that people have. It's different for everybody. One is like economic security, right? Like not having to worry about finances week to week, that sort of thing, or when you retire, you don't have to work until you die. But what would like to say? This is what I want. This is centerpiece to my American dream. What would you say that might be for a lot of people? Guys, your participation is absolute dog crap. Where's Hauserman? Yeah. Pursuit of happiness. So you want happiness. Now, happiness, yeah. And happiness means something different to everybody. Does money buy you happiness? No. It helps. But some of the most miserable people you know are wealthy people. I mean, just look at how long marriages last in Hollywood. People are miserable. They get depressed. You know, this fame and all that. You know. What do you want? What's going to help kind of like helped you. Like, I've achieved the American dream. I got this. Family's good. Who said that? Who said house? Own your own home? Maybe like with a white picket fence around it? Have family, have security. You guys want to pay rent your whole life? Does somebody else want to pay rent to somebody else your whole life? No, you want to own your own thing. Well, guys, when the ideas of communism begin to spread, there's fear of it here. Did I mention that in most communist nations, they don't allow you to practice your religion? So no property, no religion. No, thank you. I'll pick something else. Thank you. You can take your communism and shove it. Okay, I don't want it. Guys, close to 100 million people died in the 20th century as a direct result of communist policies in Russia, China, Vietnam, Cuba, North Korea. 100 million people. In China, guys, we don't have a definitive number. In Russia, we believe it's close to 25 million. Political offenses, starvation, mistreatment of human beings, labor camps, re-education camps, or just straight murder for political reasons. All right. There's my talk on communism. Okay? I freaking hate it. All right. Now, what is not in your textbooks, guys? So Russia pulls out of World War I because they've got a revolution going on. 1917, they get out, we get in. The Allies, the Americans, the British, the French, the Italians by this time, are going to try and help the Tsar, who's in charge in Russia, against the Reds, against the Bolsheviks. So we're going to try and help the Tsar, the White Army versus the Red Army. You guys know what red means. So there are literally, guys, American troops on Russian soil during the American Revolution, not fighting, but providing supplies to the Tsar's army. Now, you guys don't remember the Cold War. So after World War II, the Soviet Union, United States, Cold War against each other, which means conflict without an open fight. That's what Cold War means, conflict without an open fight. The seeds of the Cold War are laid here, while we try and help White Army against the Red. This prolongs their revolution and feeds distrust of the West. When I say the West, guys, this is a term that's used a lot. So what does that mean? Your sophomore year, you took a class called World History. Yes? First 10 years I taught here. If your parents went here, that class was called Western Civilization, not World History. So it's viewing history like church history through the eyes of the church. It's viewing history through the eyes of the West, which means basically Christianity. Europe, at least Central and Western Europe and the whole Western Hemisphere, is mostly Christian. And it starts with the Holy Roman Empire. Actually, you could start with the Greeks, who were trying democracy, the Roman Republic, and then the Holy Roman Empire under Charlemagne, where Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. That's the West. So the East, where this communism takes root, which is weird, guys. Because remember, Marx was in London watching this happen, but Russia was still agrarian. It was still a farming society. It wasn't an industrial society yet, which is weird that it took root there first. It's odd. It baffles historians. Okay? So as guys, you know, we're a nation of immigrants. Yes? Anybody in here got some Native American in them? You got some? How much? 116? I don't know if you guys know this. Mrs. Harshberger, her husband, is, I think he's full. Or he's half. So Mrs. Harshberger's kids are all 1/4. I believe it's Cherokee. Okay? But you're 116. So you got 15, 16, something else in you too, right? So 15, 16 you use from somewhere else. You're a person divided. We all are. We're all mutts. Is that okay to say? We're mutts. We all have different stuff in us. We're not purebreds. Okay? Like my daughter, who's from China. She did the 23andMe thing. Okay? 97% Chinese. 3% Vietnamese. Okay? Not us. Now, some of you guys that are from Latin America have families from Latin America. You got Spanish and you got Native American. Right? So, that's, you'd have to look at it, like what percentage each of you might be. Okay? But, yeah, so, and then you move to the States and then just become more muddy. It all becomes muddled, right? Some of you have Irish in you. Sorry. Yeah. Anybody got anything like funky? Like, not, there's a lot of German in here, right? A lot of German in here. Anybody got something like odd? Like, I got Swiss. Okay. Swiss and Scottish. That's kind of where I originate. Okay. Anything odd? Nobody? Like Finnish? Okay. All right. Never mind. You guys are so damn talkative. I just love it. Okay. Contreras. What you got?
My mom doesn't even know where she's from. Like, what part she's
In Mexico?
Like,
Well, wait, your dad's Mexican.
Yeah.
What's your mom? Okay. There you go. Thanks for speaking up and reminding me. 50. Huh? Look like a white dude to me. Okay. All right. So fears of communism back home. It goes back to that, guys, that private property, the religion. And you go back to the 1920s, guys, most people went to church. Like what percentage of Americans believe in Jesus Christ? You're like at 85%. So, you start talking about doing away with religion and property, you got problems. Okay. So, but with immigration, you got people coming in from places like Russia and Germany and all over the place. And they're bringing these ideas with them. And then some people in academia and so forth, they start to have these ideas. Yes, this utopian society, this could work where everybody has this. Welcome to the brave new world of DEI. Anybody know it? If you don't, you will. Next year, you go off to college. If you go to college, you're going to learn all about it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Okay? You can look it up, Google it right now, and look up the DEI square, or the DEI score of major American corporations right now. How good they're at this. Know it? Yeah. Everybody will know. Coming. Okay, so this, guys, is Marxism. This and the different guys. Guys, you got to do a deep dive to understand this stuff. Very complicated. Okay, how it's used. Okay, but it's this idea of power. Who has power in society? And if you are not the one in power, then you are a victim. If you are a victim, how do you challenge the powerful? Use these tools to bring in equity. Okay? Coming. You don't even know it. Cultural Marxism. It's another way to share the power, or distribute power, or take power. As the communists did. Now, the problem with communism, guys, is because you need a dictator to tear down the aristocrats, the wealthy, the powerful. You need somebody to tear them down, to bring everybody else up. The problem that has occurred, guys, is that those people that become dictators, they never give up their power and become like everybody else. So we remember the names, guys, throughout history. Stalin, Lenin, Castro, Ho Chi Minh, Mao Zedong, Kim Jong-un. We remember the names. Pol Pot. All of them in their own right. Mass murderers. So people come along every now and then and say, listen, they got it wrong. They didn't implement it the right way. We can do it better, Bernie Sanders. We can do it better. Okay. All right. So, I'm going to switch slides. Go to the next one. We got 5 minutes? Holy crap. We're good. All right, during the war, right? We had to build all these guns, bullets, shoes, boots for the soldiers, uniform for the soldiers. We built tanks, building all kinds of stuff. Industry is rolling, 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 rolling. Now the war's over. Is there going to be a slowdown in the economy? Sometimes there is. There was. Now, it wasn't too bad. It didn't take us too long to come out of it. But a lot of the workers said, we're not being paid enough. Our working conditions are terrible. We have no time off. And when we spend our paycheck, we have nothing left. 4 million workers went on strike. Now, these are labor unions. What do labor unions want? What do? They unify the workers, right? Together, they form together, and they fight to raise themselves up by taking more from the owners and the managers. Yes? United Auto Workers, which is your big three, Ford, General Motors, Chrysler, are now about to go on strike. They want better benefits. They want a 4-hour work week. My ears are open to that. How about you guys? You guys open to a 4-day school week? Would you go an hour longer on those 4 days? Start an hour earlier? To have Fridays off? Every Friday off? So anyhow, now what do communists want? They want the workers to unite to wait a second, Mr. Brett, are you saying labor unions are communists? No, I'm not saying that. But if you were suspicious of communists, you're worried about them, could you maybe find some leading some of these labor unions? Yes. So guys, what is union violence and where does that come from? Now, let's say General Motors goes on strike. And I take all you guys up to Detroit and it's like, hey, we'll work for $38 an hour. We'll take those jobs right now. What will they call us? Scabs. What a lovely thing to call somebody a scab. I had a buddy I grew up playing some baseball with. He got drafted by the Baltimore Orioles out of high school. Single A, double A was what the win surge is. It's minor league baseball. Made triple A. The next is Major League Baseball. Now, when you get to Major League Baseball, the least they can pay you is $480,000 a year. That's the minimum, league minimum, $480,000. Okay? He was in AAA for 6 years. Never got called up to the major league, so he retired. Well, that next season, Major League Baseball players went on strike, and they called my buddy Chuck Stanhope. Rest in peace, Chuck. He passed away this year, but the Oakland A's called and said, "You want to pitch for the Oakland A's?" You know what he said? "Yeah, that's my dream. I'm going to go pitch for the Oakland A's." He threw 2 games in the major leagues. And then the strike was over, so the other players came back. Did the other players like Chuck Stanhope for that? No. Okay. So tomorrow, I'm going to start with a hypothetical. A Bishop Carroll Catholic Teachers Union. And we'll play that out. Okay? And we'll talk about union violence. And guys, it goes from union violence to race riots to terrorism to the KKK. The first Red Scare. Okay? Did a lot of notes today. Try and keep up. Stop.